I was born in late December of '79 in Khmer refugee camp. To my earliest memory, I know that once my father passed the examination that allowed him to pick a third country to immigrate to. It was between Germany and US. I remember our family flying to Quezon City, Manila. We were there as part of the programming to integrate and introduce American culture and American English before our arrival to the US, right? We did this for about 6 months, learning English, learning the Star-Spangled Banner, learning the American anthem, and I have all these cool, cheesy certificates like I'm holding with the teacher, photos back home, and we keep them all. When we left, and around November, December of that same year in '84, we arrived in Lincoln, Nebraska. And at that age, I really didn't know where we were going in many ways. I just knew that we're just not going back to Cambodia. But I remember getting off, and a beautiful couple, a young couple who had 2 kids already, John and Penny Haynes, who sponsored us. I seen photos of us eating, and it was just all American food, and like this very perplexed face on our photos of like, what are we eating? You know, like we're in Lincoln, we were eating like hamburgers and salads and stuff that was really foreign to all of us. I remember my first experience in racism in school. I remember being bullied. I remember how challenging it was to be different. There was a lot of violence. There was a lot of poverty. There was a lot of stories of fighting inside the family too. So I remember how abusive my father was. You know, he's a grown man. He's a changed man. After the first 4 or 5 years, he was very violent. I remember seeing my brothers getting beaten up over the littlest thing because he was trying to be his best to support a family of 7. The first 4 or 5 years, if you're from a farmer's background like my parents, the healing was really trying to be around other Cambodians. A lot of eating, but there was a lot of gambling. There was a lot of parties and celebration, but there was a lot of alcohol and a lot of smoking. After about 5 years, I think a lot of Cambodians maybe either fell victim to that by repeating that cycle of gambling, drugs, and violence, or like my parents, they got out of it. But I just remember my oldest brother, Kusal, saying, later tonight for dinner, I want you to say how you feel about Dad when he drinks. Every one of us in the family spoke about him. My dad didn't say anything. He just accepted. He just heard everything, but it came from the heart. But that day was the day that he changed completely. That was like after 5, 6 years, seeing the abuse, the violence, seeing how they were struggling to adapt to the horrors of the past. You know, I founded a company called Khmerican, which is a ethnic-centric news outlet that covers the Cambodian diaspora. Throughout my travels in the East Coast, in the South, and living in the West Coast for much of my life, there was a major disconnection of the Cambodian communities. And so Khmerican, in many ways, became that space where I'm not keeping all the information to myself, which inspires me to do the work that I continue to do every day to this very moment. But I wanted people to really share the same feeling that I have on a more national level. And second response to why we created Khmerican was, for the last 3 to 4 decades, mainstream media has a very negative, very one-sided view of the Cambodian American experience. I saw another side of the Cambodian American progress that was not highlighted. A lot of the experience of the diaspora is our time at the refugee camp. I went there recently in October. I brought a delegation of 15 Americans. And I remember, like, I call like my brothers and sisters. We were like walking, holding hands, crying in many ways together, healing that process. For us to move forward, we need to go back to our roots. The camp is part of our identity, part of our past, that we shouldn't be ashamed or afraid or feared to revisit. When a country or a community or people are being persecuted, world leaders need to have some empathy and some compassion to understand that this is the only way that they can find peace and freedom. So for those who are watching this, I hope that you still have this optimism and hope that you will find a safe space for your family, for your kids, and for your future. And maybe it's not going to be a instant overnight achievement, but know that there's thousands and millions of people that's going to continue to fight until you find a third country to be safe.